Nobody gave Alexandra Mercado a fighting chance. Not the statisticians crunching probabilities in a quiet back room. Not the commentators who had already scripted her defeat. Not the thousands filling Manolo Santana Stadium on that Tuesday afternoon in Madrid. She walked onto the clay as a ghost in the draw, a 20-year-old from Manila with a serve that had been dissected, mocked, and buried by every tennis blog worth its salt. Across the net stood Belinda Bencic, a woman who had done the impossible, stepped away from the sport, gave birth to her daughter Bella in April 2024, vanished from the rankings down to 421st, then clawed her way back to world number 11. A mother, a champion, a resurrection made flesh. That is the kind of opponent who is supposed to end your Cinderella story before the clock even strikes midnight. And for the first set, that script held perfectly, but then something fractured, something cracked open along the red clay fault lines. And 2 hours and 27 minutes later, Alex knelt on the dirt, palms pressed flat against the surface, tears carving clean tracks through the grime on her cheeks. The entire stadium had risen, not out of politeness, out of disbelief. So forget the scoreline, the numbers lie. What actually happened was a tactical autopsy, a slow unraveling of certainty, and a return game so venomous it should have come with a warning label. Benic's story is almost too perfect to be real. She gave birth, walked away, then walked back onto the tour ranked 421st. From there she rebuilt herself match by brutal match, climbing to number 11 with a 14-5 record heading into Madrid. A United Cup win for Switzerland. A quarterfinal in Indian Wells. She didn't just return to tennis, she returned sharper, calmer, more surgical. Her footwork has always been pristine. Her ability to absorb pace and redirect it feels almost clinical. And at Madrid's altitude, where the thin air turns the ball into a bullet and topspin loses its bite, her game was tailor-made. She could stand inside the baseline, pick the ball early, and control rallies without needing to generate her own thunder. She deserved to be the favorite, completely. Alex, meanwhile, arrived on a wild card with 1 win and 2 losses on clay in 2026. Weeks earlier, Leylah Fernandez had taken her apart in Stuttgart 6-1, 6-4. Before that, Ostapenko had done similar damage. Her serve, the known flaw, the structural crack in her foundation since she turned pro, was still misfiring. 7 aces across an entire early season. First serve percentages dipping below 60. Double faults appearing with alarming regularity. On paper, this was a mismatch with a foregone conclusion. The first set delivered exactly that. Alex practically handed it over. 3 double faults in the first 4 games, a break conceded on a serve that limped over the net cord. Bencic barely needed to shift out of second gear to take it 6-3. She looked comfortable, almost bored, playing patient baseline chess while waiting for Alex to self-destruct. And here's the quiet danger of winning that way. When you win because your opponent is beating themselves, you start reading the match through their mistakes instead of through your own engine. Benic's court positioning sat slightly deeper than she preferred. She absorbed, she waited. It worked for 35 minutes, but it meant she never truly established the inside-the-baseline aggression that defined her best tennis. She was winning on Alex's terms. That is a fragile kind of lead. The adjustment came at the start of the second set, and it came entirely from Alex's return game. Let's be clear about something. Alex's serve is a genuine problem. At 1.75 meters, she doesn't have the leverage of taller players. Her ball toss drifts. Her second serve sits up like an invitation. These are real mechanical limits, but the conversation always stops there, and that's a mistake, because the flip side of that weakness is a return game that most players on tour would trade a kidney for. She reads serve direction before the ball leaves the strings. Her left-handed forehand creates angles off the return that right-handers simply cannot replicate. She takes the ball on the rise with a compact, loaded swing that neutralizes incoming pace and immediately puts the server under positional pressure. She trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy since she was 13. Return drills are the religion there. Nadal built a career on the philosophy that the server's greatest weapon could be turned into their greatest source of anxiety. Alex absorbed that completely. The second set, she started hunting Benic's second serve like a predator who had finally smelled blood. She moved 2 full steps inside the baseline on second serve points and started driving returns deep and heavy into Benic's backhand corner. Ball after ball, game after game. This created a compounding problem. Benic's backhand is her reliable wing but not her offensive one. When pushed deep and wide on that side, she tends to play safe, deep replies, neutralizing instead of attacking. Against most opponents, that's enough. Against a left-hander already standing inside the court, hunting the next ball to redirect aggressively, it creates a rally geometry that methodically drags the server further out of position until something finally gives. The break came in the 5th game. Bencic served, Alex returned deep to the backhand. Bencic pushed a safe cross-court reply. Alex stepped around her own backhand and cracked a forehand inside out that landed flush on the baseline. Benic's demeanor shifted after that point. More ball bounces before serving, eyes flicking to her coaching box, reaching for bigger first serves, trying to overpower the return and bypass the problem entirely. And that psychological state, that pressing, that search for brute force is exactly what Alex's game is designed to provoke. When a server starts pressing, the margins tighten and the double faults arrive. Bencic produced 2 in the 7th game alone. The second set went to Alex 6-4, and suddenly this match had a completely different heartbeat. The third set was something else entirely. Not elegant, not clean, but gripping in the way only high-stakes tennis between two desperate players can be. 4 breaks of serve in the first 6 games alone. Alex broke, Bencic broke back immediately. Alex broke again, Bencic broke back again. The set felt almost lawless, driven by the simple fact that neither player had a reliable enough serve to provide sanctuary. Alex's first serve percentage in the third set dropped to 51. Bencic sat at 54. Both were leaking, and the match came down to who could manage the leak better under mounting pressure. In that kind of environment, small edges carry enormous weight. Alex has played these Madrid courts before. She knows how this particular red clay moves slightly faster than Rome or Roland Garros with a skid that punishes late setup. She knows the afternoon wind swirling unpredictably through the open roof. She knows the long shadows creeping across the baseline in the final stages of an evening match. Madrid is not a comfortable surface for her, but it is a familiar, uncomfortable surface. And in a match where both players were struggling to hold serve, that environmental familiarity was worth something no stat sheet will ever capture. The decisive moment arrived in the 9th game, Bencic serving at 4-5, fighting to hold and push the pressure back onto Alex. A long, grinding game full of lead changes and tension. Bencic fought off one break point with the fastest serve of the entire match, 172 km/h, and for a moment it looked like she might survive. Then she double faulted. Another break point materialized. This time, Alex chipped a low return that skidded hard off the clay and stayed stubbornly below Benic's ideal contact zone. The Swiss player reached down, tried to scoop a forehand from well below her knees, and the ball caught the top of the tape, hesitated for a fraction of a second as if the universe itself was holding its breath, then tumbled over onto Benic's side. Match point, then victory, then knees on clay, then tears, then a stadium that had written her off standing and clapping until their hands hurt. Nobody gave Alex a chance, that was the problem, nobody told her.